Here's something I hear all the time from Muslims and Christians. If you're not worshiping God, you're still worshiping something. And in the case of atheists like myself, what they say we worship is usually one of two things. The God of Hedonism, by pursuing pleasure in things like sex, drugs, and alcohol. Or the God of Materialism, by making as much money as possible so we can buy more stuff we don't need. And they'll say we're unfulfilled, lost, numb, disconnected from our loved ones and from ourselves. And here's the thing, in a lot of ways, those religious people are completely right. For much of the world, those living in slums or war-torn countries, they don't have the luxury of wondering why they're unfulfilled. They're too busy surviving. But in the West, in countries like Canada, where I've lived most of my adult life, many of us do have our basic needs met. A warm bed, a roof over our heads, food, clothing, safety. And yet, so many people who have all those things are miserable. Why? Because much of our society worships the gods of hedonism and materialism. They may not have holy texts like the Quran or the Bible, but their teachings are just as pervasive, shaping the fabric of our world. We learn them in our schools and workplaces, in our homes, and even in the entertainment we consume. These teachings can be summarized into two core values. Your worth is measured by how productive you are, and your status by how much you own. In place of there is no God but Allah, or Jesus died for your sins, these gods proclaim, work defines you, possessions elevate you. Many of us in the West no longer struggle to survive, but as philosopher Slavoj Žižek puts it, we've become prisoners of a different struggle, the compulsion to enjoy. To satisfy the gods of hedonism and materialism, we're compelled to make the most of everything, our bodies, our careers, every spare free moment, and we hate ourselves when we fall short. To comfort ourselves or simply to distract us from our failures to please our gods, the gods instruct us to chase one high after another. Drugs, alcohol, a new gadget, a new job title, a new relationship. The gods encourage us to develop narcissistic tendencies, using others and devoting all our energies to accumulate accomplishments and selfishly boost our egos. Think about some of the people who gain massive followings in our society, ranging from strongman types like Donald Trump to the insidiously aspirational types like the Kardashians. These are the gods' preachers on this earth, who flaunt their accomplishments and promise that you too will achieve success if you just do the same hard work they did. What those gods don't want you to know, what they conceal and suppress, is that the life they've designed for you is like playing a video game with infinite levels. With each new level we reach, we find there's no mountaintop, no end, just another summit to climb. Just diminishing returns and growing feelings of hollowness and exhaustion. And what do we end up with? People spending their every waking hour worshipping at the altar of these gods, working alone at home or with strangers they can't connect with in offices and factories, grabbing fast food for dinner, zoning out in front of a screen, getting high or drinking on weekends, just to forget how empty they feel the rest of the time. Over time, the worshippers of hedonism and materialism become detached, untethered from any deeper purpose. And like the impoverished in other parts of the world, they too are just trying to get through the day. They bury their dissatisfaction beneath distractions, only to feel it resurface in the quiet moments, with anxiety, with restless sleep. I've lived this. I've worshipped the gods of hedonism and materialism. My faith in them left me feeling worthless. Their doctrines resulted in me wondering why I was even alive. I felt this constant pressure to succeed, not just for myself, but for my parents, who sacrificed so much to give me a chance at a better life in Canada. I slogged through a degree I didn't care about, from a university that operated more like a diploma mill than a place that valued education. Then worked a series of dead-end jobs at companies that treated me like I was disposable, just so I could feel like I wasn't useless. I numbed myself with drugs because it made me forget about my aimlessness. And as I got older, I saw the world around me get worse as it obsessively followed those gods. Worsening climate change, corporations hoarding billions, tech companies invading our lives, politicians saying all the right things while doing nothing, especially when it came to the suffering of people like my fellow Palestinians. And in the middle of all this, little old me, just one person, powerless to change any of it. So when Christians and Muslims say the answer to all this powerlessness is our God, I get it. Islam and Christianity offer a far more comforting story about who you are and why you're here than the gods of materialism and hedonism. They offer an alternative guide for what to do in your life and a promise of rewards in the afterlife. These religions are backed up by the legitimacy of history and popularity. Islam and Christianity have existed for more than 1400 years and are followed by billions of people. If they've been around for so long, if so many people believe in them, there has to be something to them, right? For people raised outside those religions, like some Muslims in the West, it can be a way to reconnect to their heritage. And many others in the West turn to the more dominant religion of Christianity to feel accepted in a society that's otherwise cold and fragmented. Beyond comforting stories and promises, these religions offer something that hedonism and materialism, by their very nature, struggle to do well. Community that can fill the hollowness of day-to-day life. Churches and mosques where people will learn your name. Places where you might meet a romantic partner. Places that offer ways to serve others besides yourself, whether it's a soup kitchen or building shelters for the homeless. They offer an opportunity to escape the narcissism of the rest of our society, a chance to ground yourself and escape the cycle of chasing newer and newer highs. These are powerful, positive things. So why, if I understand all that, do I still reject religion? Why not return to Islam, the religion of my ancestors, or convert to Christianity, which promises love and salvation? Because belief in their God is a package deal, and the fine print matters. Yes, you get community, but only if you believe, if you prostrate yourself and submit to an Allah at the mosque on Fridays and recite verses from a Quran filled with Allah's threats to non-believers and boasts of how powerful and mighty He is. Or go to church on Sundays to read from a Bible filled with acts of cruelty that range from God-approved slavery to God-approved genocide. Yes, you get meaning, but only if you accept that God created the universe and has plans for your thoughts, your sex life, and your afterlife. And if you don't fit the mold, if you're gay or trans, if you question the doctrine, if you challenge the community, you're often judged, sidelined, or worse. Or you pick and choose what parts of the doctrine you practice and what parts you ignore. And that's how you end up with queer Muslims or queer Catholics who aren't accepted in any shape or form by the majority. Those religions' unconditional love turns out to be very conditional. You also have to buy into ideas that have no good evidence. That Jesus rose from the dead, that Muhammad received divine revelations, that heaven and hell are real places. Consider the evidence provided for these claims, and then ask yourself if you'd accept that evidence in any other area of your life. Some believers won't even refer to those things. They'll refer to their hope, their faith that there's something more, that their suffering has meaning, that this universe couldn't have come from nothing, when they haven't explained how their particular God solves the mystery of our origins. And just to keep you believing and obeying, there's the threat of hell, the threat of the suffering that comes from separation from God. Unless we forget, Christianity and Islam don't necessarily reject the gods of hedonism and materialism. They often reinforce them and work together. Certain Muslims and Christians embrace teachings that treat wealth as proof of divine favor.
You said that you don't like to fly commercial because you don't want to get into a tube with a bunch of demons. Do you really believe that human beings are demons?
No, I do not. And don't you ever say I did.
And some historians even argue that the Protestant work ethic helped lay the groundwork for modern capitalism, encouraging relentless productivity as a sign of spiritual virtue. So while they might claim to offer an alternative to the empty pursuit of wealth and pleasure, in practice they often fuel and justify the same consumerism and status chasing that they claim to condemn. So what's the alternative? This is where I want to make my main point. It's not that we should replace the God of Islam and Christianity with the gods of hedonism and materialism. It's that we need to leave all those gods behind. We need places to belong that don't require belief in the religion practiced by the owners of those places. We need ways to serve others, not for divine or material credit, but because we care. When Christian missionaries help in the developing world, is it simply because they care? Or is it because they want to convert non-believers or earn brownie points with the man upstairs? The fact that the motivations are often muddled is a problem. I don't want people to serve others because they fear hell or hope for heaven. I want them to serve others because it feels good to make someone else's life better, and because those you help will reciprocate and help make your life better. That's the motivation behind this channel. That's why I call it Secular Spirit. I believe people can live meaningful, connected, even spiritual lives without religion. And by spiritual, I don't mean crystals or chakras. I mean lives that are fulfilling, relationships that run deep, and communities that feel real. To accomplish these goals, we need to redesign how we live. Instead of churches and mosques, we need secular community spaces, perhaps one in every apartment building, one at the corner of every residential street. Not places that try to sell you salvation, but places that offer barbecues, game nights, health services, counseling, art workshops, music jams, organized sports. No agenda beyond encouraging humans to be human together. We also need to stop defining people by their jobs or their salaries. Let people find worth beyond what they produce. Give them forums where they can express themselves through art for its own sake and not risk poverty for devoting themselves to their art. Let kids dream of being something other than a rich social media influencer. We must stop glorifying hustle culture and shame when we fall short. You're not broken because you're tired. You're not lesser because you haven't reached some imaginary level of success. Worshippers of all these gods, of Islam and Christianity, of hedonism and materialism, they're going to hear all of this and say that you can't have meaning in your life without worshiping their gods. But these gods force you to accept their preset meaning that's rigid and intolerant of change or difference. The God of Islam and Christianity claims to be the sole source of morality, while the gods of hedonism and materialism insist your meaning is tied to constant striving and acquisition, always reaching for something new, but never arriving at a destination. But true meaning doesn't come from blindly accepting these inherited scripts. It's something you develop over time in your relationships with others and in the quiet reflection you bring to your own life. An existential search that's personal, evolving, and real in a way no prepackaged doctrine can ever be. We're a long way from creating a society that allows us to explore meaning in such an open way without dogmatic prescriptions. Secular efforts are growing, and a lot of it starts with online communities like this one. To make our task harder though, we're facing massive problems in the world right now. New ones like climate change and the infiltration of technology in every aspect of our lives, and old ones that have always been with us: war, disease, death. It's easy to keep worshipping the gods of hedonism and materialism because they're everywhere around us and they falsely promise us everything will be better if we just keep producing and keep consuming. We can reject them by turning to the alternative of age-old religion that will always offer its solution. But I don't believe the solution to those problems should include made-up stories about gods who reward and punish, who divide people into saved and damned. We don't need to believe in another god to stop worshipping the wrong ones, the gods of hedonism and materialism. We just need a better way to live. What we need is each other. And if we can build communities rooted not in faith, but in reality, and shared humanity, shared struggle, and shared care, just maybe, we can build something even stronger than religion could ever give us. And that's all from me. Do you think the God of Islam and Christianity is better than the gods of hedonism and materialism? Is it possible to lead a meaningful life without any of those gods? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like this video, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe. You can also support this channel through Patreon or PayPal. The links are in the description below. I'm Secular Spirit, and I'll be back with another video very soon.